Welcome back to This American Ride podcast, where we talk about issues that affect you, the average American. What's up? Welcome back to the show. I'm George here with Bert, This American Ride podcast, and we've got Mark in the studio today.
Hey, y'all.
What's up, Mark?
Good,
Mark
good.
is
Thanks for having me.
Somebody we go way back with, and we're going to talk about a little bit about your service, joining the military, kind of life in the military, and then the transition that you've made out into civilian life to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's get into it.
Me llamo Bernardo.
Me llamo Bernardo. That's Bert.
Hi.
So, real quick, little history. You were in the 6th Marine Regiment, right?
Yes.
And you were deployed with the U.S. Department of State, and then you were an operations chief and intelligence analyst.
Correct. Yeah.
And quite a long time. How many years were you in?
22 years.
All right.
Yeah, 22 years.
Damn. 22 years.
Off and on. So I got in. I came in right after high school, 94.
So 94, right? And
the wonder years.
The wonder years. What made you at that point? You know, we all got out of high school. We had a lot of guys enlist.
Yeah.
What made you at the age, I assume 18? Were you 18 or 17?
I think I was 18. Yeah, 18. I was one of the older ones. Yeah.
Okay. What made you enlist at 18?
18. Looking back,
No skills.
Almost 50 years. Yeah, that's probably what it was. It's
Almost 50 years. Come on.
50 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it was myriad of a few things, right? One, I mean, the main thing, no direction. I was, decent grades, as you guys can probably attest. I was in
Decent or average?
Probably below that.
Below average. We don't call decent grades below average.
True. Yeah. So I can remember going back. It was junior. What was our summer of our senior year? Working at the blueberry factory there, packing frozen blueberries.
Oh boy!
And a bunch of other shenanigans.
Oh boy! This is about you, not me.
I'm just saying. I gotta paint a picture, right? Like the Birmingham. I gotta paint the Birmingham here. But yeah, it was direction. Like I was misguided, and like a lot of the hellions out there, it's looking for something to do. Really, school wasn't for me, and it was just centering my attention and studying and doing all that stuff. I didn't gravitate to it.
Mm-hmm.
I needed something more of the outside, hands-on, action type. I'm not trying to be a superhero or nothing like that, but it just more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that summer going into my senior year, working at the blueberry factory there, and this gentleman comes in his deltas, and I was like, "Is this a cop coming to look for me?" I paid no mind. I was up on the scaffolding there throwing some frozen blueberries into a shaker, and the boss was like, "Hey, Hats, this guy's looking for you." I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to jail." So, I come down. Long story short, ended up having a conversation with the gentleman, and
was he a recruiter?
Yeah, he was a recruiter, Marine recruiter.
And he came to the blueberry joint looking for you?
Yeah, he came to the blueberry joint. And
that's probably after I got fired.
Yeah. And that was, no, I think you were still there. We got poison ivy after that. So the rest is history, basically. He came in, we talked a couple times, went there, did some paperwork and, ran some physical fitness activities and things like that, just to kind of see where I was at. And I was like, you know what, this will be good. I think, to get me out of town and get me away from my situation. Because to be honest with you, I think, if I had stayed, I'd either been dead or in jail. I'd just scrapping and just running with the wrong crew, And, truth be told, I think it saved my life, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That was it. Went to boot camp, and, the rest was history.
I mean, I hung out with you. I didn't think I was that bad of a guy.
No. Yeah. I had some good friends. Listen, I had some good friends, but there was there were some choice moments.
There was,
Yeah, I mean, it was. Listen,
this
I mean,
young people decisions is all
Yeah,
just, we all
immature.
make bad decisions as
Yeah.
18, 19-year-olds.
I mean, the track record of people from Browns Mills, it was kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
I feel like either
Yeah.
you found a way to get out of there and do something, or you're still there today, you know,
Doing nothing.
well, I mean, living life, obviously, but not right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Not doing much.
It's not a prolific place to live. And I grew up there. I love it. I feel like it was a much different place. Pemberton was. I feel like I looked at it when we were younger as a much different place than I look at it today.
Right. Yeah.
You know, is it any different? I don't know.
Your view on it,
my
your perspective
view is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, I mean, I think, you know, if I had to do it all over, I would have made the same decision.
So you enlist in the Marines. You go down, you do boot camp. Was that 94?
Yes.
You obviously, you get through boot camp. Where are you off to after boot camp? What happens?
Yeah. So after boot camp, you know, you still go to additional training, which is SOI, School of Infantry, which really was right next door to, you know, where I was at down in Paris Island. So came home for about 10 days. They give you, after boot camp, they give you that 10 days of liberty. You come home, see your family, check in, make sure everybody knows you're alive. Because basically, I mean, you graduated high school. I think it was about 4 or 5 days later, you know, I'm off on an airplane and I'm leaving. Like, you know, for the most part, and those that have been in the military can, you know, relate to this, is that, you know, everything you've ever known growing up, all the way up to that pinnacle of, you know, graduating high school, is you've been at home with your family, your friends. And then the next thing you know, you're gone, and you're gone for, you know, for a while. And it's just like, oh shit, where'd he go? And you know, you come home, you got to check in, and I think it helped out a lot. But yeah, I came home for about 10 days, and then right back to School of Infantry, right back down North Carolina. And that was some more, you know, intensive training. And then from there is where you kind of like, you know, you get into your MOS, you get shipped out to your first duty station, which was 2-6 for me, 6 Marines,
2nd Battalion, and a fire team leader. So like, I don't know what that is. I mean, somebody not being, you know, not knowing that much about the Marines in general. Explain to people like what is a fire team in the Marines, and like what is it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, for those out there to understand and those that don't, I mean, basically you got a platoon of Marines, you know, you got 4 squads, and then each squad's got got 3 fire teams in it. And, you know, that fire team leader is the guy who leads his Marines. But, you know, you got your chain of command, you report up, and, you know, you talk to your squad leader as the next person in line. And after that, your platoon sergeant and stuff like that. So
how many Marines in a fire team?
It's like 4.
Okay.
It's like a tight knit group, like a unit that you guys function as. Yeah. Okay.
So you're like the captain of the 4 guys.
Not that much responsibility.
No, the fire team leader wasn't that. Like, you didn't. What did you do as a fire team leader? How are you any different from anybody else on the fire team?
It's small unit leadership. You know,
okay.
you manage your Marines. You know, and then you check into the next higher up, and you just keep accountability of your Marines. You know, that's basically what it is making sure that they're doing, you know, what they need to do, training, and, you know, making their personal issues and things like that. You know, it's small unit leadership.
Okay.
So they have that like responsibility broken down by like piece by piece by piece,
right,
all the way down to the 4-guy unit.
Right. And with, you know, more rank comes more responsibility, but that's how they kind of start you off. You know, you start off with, you know, a few Marines. If you could take care of each other, then, you know, and you do what you need to do, you move up in rank, you get more responsibility.
Okay.
So how long were you a Marine before you were sent off out of the U.S.?
Not long. I mean, I think right after SOI, I joined 2-6. With a few months, we were working up, and I was right on a Navy ship out in the Mediterranean doing grid squares, you know, just training and doing, you know, non-evacuation operations, you know, in different countries, and, you know, enjoying ship life for about 6 months.
Oof.
Okay.
Yeah. Living on a ship.
I feel like when people think Marines, they don't think about being on a boat like that. You know what I mean? They don't
about what the word Marine,
not a boat. It's
Marine in general means.
Well, I get it, but I mean, when you think like when I don't think Marines, I mean, I don't, boats aren't necessarily the thing to come to mind. I mean, I more think like tip of the spear because that's
we're amphibious, right? So we gotta we need to be in the water, in the Navy. That's where we get our paychecks. The Navy pays our paychecks, so we're just that department that goes way back and early times where we were guarding their ships, from mutiny, and then now here we are, and there people look at it, make fun, and say, oh yeah, we're just the the passenger ship for you to get you where you're at, and I mean, but it's a good community. I mean, we tease each other when we're out and, training and doing things. And, it's like your brother, I mean, we can mess with each other, but if somebody else does, it's no good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but, it's definitely tight quarters, and it's a well-oiled machine too. I mean, our Navy brother and sisters are doing their when we're when they're underway when we're on ship, and things need to be done, the chores, if you will. Everybody's got their task, right? So everybody's doing their thing. You go through the P-ways and up and down the stairs and ladder wells is what we call them. Everybody's running and gunning and doing their thing until lunch and then until dinner. Everybody's got their load to carry.
Okay.
And it's a well-oiled machine, but it is tight quarters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no thanks.
So that was 94, and you said you had 2 stints, right? So how long were you? Like 4 years in the first time,
right? So I did. What did I do? I think I did 4.5 years the first time. Got out for a couple of years. Then 9/11 happened, and then I went back in.
So did you re-enlisted after 9/11? Was that?
Yeah. Yep. So I got with my prior recruiter service because I was prior enlisted. So you don't go back through the regular channels. And they helped me get back in. And basically, after being out, I think I was out for about 3.5 years when 9/11 happened. And then, I was just like, no way, I gotta get back in there. So I had to get my financials, and I think I owned a house at the time, and I had to get things situated before I went back in. But that was the first call as soon as 9/11 happened. Was I assumed that because I was on inactive reserve that I was going to get called back in. I think we were still at that point trying to figure things out. I never got the call, so I just due diligence just went in and said, hey, I want to go back, and can we make this happen? So I went back in, and finally it came to fruition, and I got a contract, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you back. I went back in.
So at that point you were married? You and Nicole were?
No,
you're not married?
We were not married yet. No.
Okay.
We were dating at the time, and I basically said, listen, this is, I'm sorry, this is what I got to do. I was ready to give her the house, and and just kind of pack my duffel bag and because I still had my Marine Corps issue, and I was ready to just go. I just felt this sense of duty.
Yeah.
And so I was, and she was just like, oh, I'll go with you. I was like, are you sure? And she was like, yeah. So she was pretty hell bent on it. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go and do what I needed to go do. And if you're really about it, then this will test you. And she was tested, and, she ended up following me right where I was going. So
good. That's awesome. So 9/11, man.
So when you came out, I remember you came out to Chatsworth when Carol and I were living out there.
Yeah.
That was after you got out, in between? Was that was like in between, like 2008?
Yeah, that was right. Yeah, it was not right after, but it was right when I went back in 2005, the second time.
So you went in 2005?
Excuse me. Yeah. Yep. I went back in 2005.
Okay.
Yep. So I just got back.
So what were you?
I must have been home.
I can't remember what you must have been home for leave.
Must have been home.
But I know you had Nicole with you.
Yep. Yeah. So that's when we got engaged, was in 2005.
Okay.
When I went back in. So that's where, that was the Chatsworth.
I think it was later than that, because I was in Chatsworth from, no, you're right. I was out there in 2005.
Yeah. So I was probably home on leave, and we got together, and I try to do that when I'm home on leave. I try to link up, because it's usually far and few between, when I'm away. And, if you remember going back when we grew up, I mean, we were tight.
Yeah.
I mean, not just you and I, but our network of friends, like we were tight. And when I'm away, I just, you kind of, it's hard to explain if you haven't been there and done that, but it's like time stops, you know what I mean? And like all of that, the memories and the good times and the stuff that we used to do, football, baseball, wrestling, and all that stuff. When I left, it froze for me. For a lot of other people, it just time, they kept living.
Yeah.
And that was something I really never came to terms with, or never really figured out, And when I came home, it confused me because the reaction wasn't the same, if you can understand that for a minute.
Yeah.
So it was just like time froze. And, I come back home and it's just like, I assume everybody's like right where we left off, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it was kind of disappointing. And, but the connections I think they've never really changed. Like even you, like us, like it seemed like we were able to pick right up where we left off,
Yeah.
And most of them are, but there's others that, you kind of regret because, things unsaid, or, time moves on and they don't feel the same. And it's just like you lose some of those old relationships, and it's tough.
Yeah.
It's life moving, man.
That is exactly right. A lot of couple marriages, some kids, some bad decisions.
Yeah, you're away from like home. So for you, everything like froze as far as what's going on at home. But for everybody that's still at home, life's going on. Things are changing crazy fast, and you're gone, years, and people are changing. We were kids when you left, you know.
And then when I came home to men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
with all kinds of different circumstances, and some not as willing to pick up the friendship where it was, and others were, so it's just, it's kind of crazy like that.
Coming from that town, you all knew somebody who was in some way affected by substance abuse. I mean, that changes a lot too. I mean,
quite a handful of
it's a real thing. And I think, when you're, away and you're a Marine, when for the most part, like the straight and narrow, I mean, you're enlisted, I mean, and you come back to, a 4 stoplight town of people working, jobs, trying to make ends meet, and 50 hours a week, and supporting a kid probably that they're not living with because they never got married to the woman they had it with. I mean, that's a big part of the story of the town.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time I remember my mom called me, I would say, for a small time, there was probably about once a month she was calling me, let me know a friend passed, overdosed, under the influence, driving and crashed and died. And, we lost we lost a handful. We lost a good bit of friends from high school.
Yeah.
And that's to your point, it's.
We lost, we lost a lot of people we've lost a number of people in the past, like 2 years, I feel like.
Yeah.
Even as grown adults to substance abuse. So it's like
still at this age. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't let go.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It does not let go.
I mean, you guys are depressing.
I know. Anyway, speaking of, let me liven it up. I wanted to get back though. I wanted to get back 9/11. You and I don't know. We haven't really talked. Like, I don't know where you were the morning of when that happened. I know I had a day off, actually. I was off that day, and we're getting ready to go mountain biking and with a couple of friends, and who we all worked together. And phone rang. They were like, "No, you got to come to work. We don't know what's going to go on." I was working at Helene Fold in Trenton at the time, and in like a minimal invasive surgery unit, and they were canceled all the procedures, but we need staff. We don't know what, we don't know if we're going to get people. We don't know anything right now.
Right.
And the airbase, one of the air bases, I think it was Dover, shipped up like emergency burn units up the turnpike, and I helped on emergency like burn packs and stuff that we unloaded, and we never got anybody. So I don't know. I mean, obviously you were not enlisted, but what was going through your mind the morning of 9/11 when you saw those towers hit?
So it was it was shock and awe. I mean, it happened here on our soil. first off, but I mean, where I was at, I mean, you know, I was on a golf course at the time. Danny and I were out there.
What the hell were you doing on a golf course? You doing a job?
It was a beautiful morning.
So,
it was a gorgeous morning.
It was a gorgeous morning.
So both of you clowns were off and I was working.
Yeah.
So, you know, a friend of ours, you know, Danny Beta, you know him, we both had recently, you know, he was Navy, just kind of got out not so long ago, you know, our enlistments. And we were home and just took advantage of the day. We went down, I think it was Jaworski's course, actually.
Okay.
And down there playing, you know, 18 holes. We got done with the first 9 and was just like, got this eerie feeling like, where's everybody at? You know? We're like, all right, we got done 9 holes. Let's go get a hot dog and a drink. You know, we get in the clubhouse, and that's where everybody was at. Like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? Everybody staring at the damn TV screens, and all you saw was, you know, plumes of smoke and just you know, CNN or whatever was on at the TV at the time. And you know, we kind of walk up and we're trying to make our way closer to the TV sets and get some sound, figure out what the hell's going on, because everybody in the golf course was in the clubhouse. I mean, it was standing room only. And we're trying to read the fine print, and his phone's ringing, my phone's ringing, because literally we both just got out of the military. You know, our families were calling, you know, military friends were calling, everybody's up. We didn't know what to expect, what was going on. My mom's crying on the phone. She's asking me, are you going back in? What? I'm like, yes, I don't even know what's going on. Time out. Give me a minute to process. And I see what's going on the TV, and I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, just jaw dropping.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think Danny and I finished 18 hole. I think we left after the 9. We like literally trying to figure out what was going on. We got in the car, and the whole time just rode back home in silence.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine
trying to figure
finishing 9 more after that.
No, not at all, man. I mean, we just were trying to figure out, like, what does this mean? Why? Like, just so many questions. You know, we get back home, you know, I get to my car, he goes back home. I go back home, and we're just trying to figure things out. I'm waiting for a phone call because literally I'm thinking, I'm an active reserve at the time. I'm thinking I'm going to get a phone call and I'm leaving. You know, so I spent the day with family, and my sister at the time was very young, and you know, my brother and stuff, and we're just like trying to figure out what was going on. And then for like 24, 48 hours, like nothing, and then a week goes by, nothing, and that's back to the point of my prior recruiter service. You know, I was just like, hey, listen, I haven't gotten a phone call yet. What's going on? Like, I want to go back. I gotta, you know, stuff's happening. Let's sign some papers. Let's get it right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was an eerie day.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah, they say, and we talk about those all the time. Like, you know, they always said, never forget. And I say that never, like, how could you forget? I always say, until you see this generation of what we're going through now.
But I mean, think of our generation. I mean, think of us when we were in school growing up, and different every year, all through high school. Like, what panic, what?
We didn't have any of that.
Emergency, you know, other than I think the space shuttle.
We had the Challenger.
Challenger explode was the only thing I remember being on TV.
4th or 5th grade.
Yeah, that was impactful.
Yeah,
but we weren't ready for that. We weren't. That was. I mean,
well, to your point, I still feel like we're not ready for something. You know, but I mean, that's another conversation. So you re-enlisted.
Yeah. So I
volunteered back up. Yeah. Now, did you deploy after that? Did you?
Yeah, very soon after I got back in. Yeah. So, so the reason for the delay was, so when I originally went in the Marine Corps, I was in the infantry, 0311, and basically just a gun toting grunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I did some thinking while I was out at the time. I was like, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably try to do something different. You know, try to set my career path for something that life eventually will end for me as a Marine. What does that look like? Where do I want to go? So I always said, I'll lat move. I would lat move because I did a little stint on embassy duty.
Yeah.
So
that was early on though, right?
Yeah, that was my first time.
I remember that because that's when I was in college and we were still in touch with each other.
Yeah.
And not like that. but
so I was, you know,
communicating.
a Marine security guard, and what that means is I guarded American embassies overseas, and some of the, you know, the people that I met and the networking and stuff like that. So I just had this idea of wanting to kind of like move into intelligence. And it was a little intriguing being in an analysis and kind of, you know, putting those puzzle pieces together, you know, building that puzzle of, you know, unknowns and, you know, and trying to make that picture for a commander's decision, you know, intrigued me a little bit. So when we got to that point with the prior recruiter, I was like, you know, I just want to lat move. So I'd do some paperwork. I'd take a test, had to write a letter to the headquarters Marine Corps. And lo and behold, luckily for me, that they accepted, you know, and all my, you know, my ASVAB scores were right. You know, they accepted my letter. I told them kind of like, you know, hey, this is what I've been doing since I've been out. This is where I kind of see myself going. And, you know, they accepted it. And I went right in, and they said, okay, contingent on you passing Intel school, which was in Virginia Beach. So I said, all right, good to go. Down to Virginia Beach. So now we're in 2005, and, you know, I'm leaving. Got my backpack, you know, packed. I leave. I go down to North Carolina. I check into second Intel division, second Intel, and they were like, okay, well, you're only here until, you know, we're going to send you to Intel school, and if everything goes well, you'll come back here. But we're already going to be in Iraq, so if you pass and everything's good, you're going to follow us there. I said, all right, good to go. So I get to Virginia Beach, and, you know, I do my time there, and, you know, pass flying colors, no issues, no problems. Everything was good there. You know, I got to keep my rank. I was an E5 when I got out.
Okay.
So I got to keep my rank when I went going back in, but the only stipulation was I had to start over, which means I'd start all my, you know, primary education over. It's like being promoted to an E5 and I'm starting at the beginning.
Okay.
So all the accolade, all the things, and, you know, hurdles that I had to jump to make it to E6 was basically starting over. So I pass, everything's good. I graduate. I get back to Camp Lejeune. I get my gear, and I'm off to Iraq. And I was there for 6 months, 7 months.
It was not the best time to be in Iraq.
No.
And 2005. But real quick, we're going to take a listen to the sponsor of this podcast, Legendary USA. And we'll be back right here in a minute. What's up, everybody? I just wanted to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's podcast, Legendary USA. Their selection of leather and denim jackets, vests, gloves, chaps, and riding shirts are 100% made in the USA with a lifetime warranty. Legendary USA isn't just about style, it's about quality. With American-made products and a commitment to excellence, you can trust that you're getting gear that's built to last. Legendary USA isn't just for bikers. They have a full selection of shirts, hoodies, EDC, tactical and survival gear, all made here in the USA. And here is the best part. Legendary USA is offering our listeners an exclusive deal. When you shop at legendaryusa.com and use the promo code LegendaryPod, you'll get 15% off on your first purchase. That's legendary with a D and pod for podcast. So why settle for ordinary when you can be legendary? Click that link in the description to head on over to legendaryusa.com to explore their fantastic range of products and use the promo code LegendaryPod to snag your 15% off discount today. Now back to the show, and thank you for Legendary USA for supporting this podcast. We're back.
Yes, sir. And just in case you're curious, Legendary USA will be at the Baggers and Brews Poker Run July 13th. If you want to come get some of their merch and find out more about their leathers, Mr. Chris will be there.
Sweet.
Just a heads up on that.
Sweet. All right. So we were just deployed to Iraq 2005. It was a hot year and not by weather either.
Yeah.
Like it was.
It might have been warm there.
I mean, it probably was warm, but
pretty busy, pretty heavy firefighting going on. Yeah.
It was.
But now you're in intelligence at this point?
Yeah. So I'm an intelligence analyst at this point. Yeah.
So are you doing anything that's got you in anything hot and heavy?
Other than just, being on the, forward operating bases and stuff. I mean, we would get, some indirect fire every now and again, mortars being lobbed over, the fence every now and again, a couple guys to be out there and, transitioning from, their quarters to their workplace and getting hit with shrapnel and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, unless, you're out, tasked with an infantry team patrol going out and collecting intel, you know what I mean? You're pretty good to go. So my first year over there basically was just, come in there, get acclimated, you're a brand new analyst, get with the team, figure out what's going on. Of course, I got some rank at the time, so it's not like I'm the low guy on the totem pole, but I am in a fusion center, basically in a hardened building. A bunch of screens and some computers, and we're in there and we're just knee deep in data. We're just really trying to sift through all this information and try to figure out what's going on, right? So we can put this puzzle piece together for our commanders and people that are making the decisions, right. That's really what it's about, is trying to get to the truth, figure out what's going on so they can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
So
because those decisions depend on where you're sending people, and
that's right.
If it's a lot of responsibility if you misread something, or if you're making decisions upon, I guess, incomplete data sets, and which a lot of times I'm sure you had to.
Right.
You could send guys out to get in a lot of trouble. I mean, not you specifically, but people are making decisions to send people out into harm's way based upon that.
Right.
It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig, me. Especially like in 2005, because 2005 was the election year.
Yep.
So there was, I'm sure, a lot.
Which was that? Who was up for that?
That's when they held the elections in Iraq.
Was
in 2005. So 2005 they had the elections. They had Sadr.
Not our elections.
Not our elections. Sadr City. I mean, I think is the other big one that comes to.
Yep. Then you got all the religious holidays, and I mean, there are multiple reasons of why they just were acting out and doing things, and explosions and patrols were going out, and people just it was havoc out there. There was a lot of grimy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long was that deployment for?
So I think we came back in about April of 2006 at that point. And of course, for us, what that meant was come back home.
Mm-hmm.
You get a couple of days, about a couple of weeks off, or rest and refit. Get some leave time in, visit your family and friends, and it's right back to training. You're right back at it. You're training. Running and gunning, getting ready to go back over for another 7. I think we were on like a rotation. Like,
what kind of training? Like so now you're in intel. What kind of training are you doing?
Yeah, so it's more like it's not so much intel. I mean, you're doing intel training and getting your battle rhythms and stuff together, but you're out in the field. You're camping and
so doing the basic Marine type basic training stuff,
rifle training and stuff like that, weapons training, weapons handling, things like that. Just, putting ourselves in scenarios that we may or may not be in, if we're out there. Right. So covering all the wickets, making sure that Marines are prepared to go out there and fight if they need to,
I mean, the reality of it is you're still Marine.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're a rifleman. Right. So, shit storm happens, bad situation, worst case scenario, they invade the base, we get overrun. Well, you got to put your computer down. You got to pick up your rifle and your K-bar, and you gotta fight.
So at this point, are you guys starting to adapt to the different kind of war that it is? Like this is like where we're getting into like a desert type, we hadn't really been in anything like this. There was the Desert Storm stuff and whatnot, but
Desert Storm, but now we're urban, like door to
like
door.
urban desert,
Middle
Eastern type stuff, which is very new to what, the U.S. is dealing with,
Right. And I mean, every time
is your training adapting to that at that point, or are you still just doing the basic stuff?
No, I mean, our training was adapting to some of the, the TTPs that, the insurgents were, introducing into the battle space, as, early on, we were on patrols, we're doing our thing. And then next thing we're getting hit with IEDs, right? The the explosive devices that were hidden and stuff in the roads, and improvised in a myriad of different things. And we're like, oh crap, so then we started doing other things to overcome those TTPs, and just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And that's basically what the training encompassed every time we came home, is like adapting to the new TTPs, techniques and procedures. So there was just like so much of IEDs in the roads, and they were starting to hide them in carcasses, and other just a myriad of things that you guys have seen on the news and been reading about. So we would come home and train for those events.
Okay. Yeah, because you hear like for me, watching so many of the people I follow, like currently these days on social media, the SF guys that are that were the SEALs, or the Green Berets, guys like that. There's a lot of names of big name guys that are doing cool stuff on social media now, but you always hear them telling the stories about what they were doing, and it always seems like in their stories it's the Marines that were the ones taking the heavy casualties, in that time frame. Like they're the ones that, like, they were kind of trying to back up and help, and you guys were obviously helping them too. But it would seem like it's always the Marines that were like taking the heavy casualties. And I just wondering if, like, when you were out there, like if that was how it was, if that's what was going on, if there was a lot of your guys, your Marines, because that's obviously your guys. There's all kinds of different units and military in the battle space, but like as a Marine, was that like what was going on? Was there a lot of heavy, were Marines taking a lot of the bullets?
No, I wouldn't say that would be the case. I think everybody that was out there during that time, didn't matter what uniform you were wearing, there was significant loss on all sides.
Okay,
all sides.
Yeah.
Our mission, and Green Berets or any special operations units that are out there, we all had our own missions.
And I don't mean Marines like you guys sucked and you were getting tore up. I mean, like,
I'm not taking it that way.
Any of the not just Marines, even Army, like the guys that aren't like special forces guys that are doing all the the crazy stuff. Like you guys are doing the real grunt work and the the patrols and all those things. Like those seem to be like the ones that really were like would get hit with like the shit, and get beat up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, if you were out, and there were, sometimes there was times of the day, and even, like I said, there are holidays and stuff where, fighting was a little worse, casualties were taken, but I couldn't say there's nobody that was taking any more casualties than if you were out there, not one unit or not one service, if you will, was taking any more than anybody else. Everybody that was out there was putting their time in, and was running and gunning and putting their work in.
Yeah, it was a rough couple of years for the Iraq War. I mean, when you talk Fallujah, you talk Sadr. I mean, those were, heavy fighting places.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, tough for anybody to be in, and it wasn't just Marines that were involved in those. It was a lot of Army too. I mean, those Army, guys are
Air Force out there, Coasties out there. I mean, we had all the branches out there.
Yeah, Coast Guard too, huh? Yeah, we don't think about that.
Not at all.
Yeah, you don't think about that. I think of Coast Guard as the Coast Guard, like guarding U.S. territories.
Yeah, I mean they have analysts. They have analysts too, and there's sometimes we cross train, and the more help we can get, the better. I mean, so just because you wear a different uniform, different service, doesn't mean you're not helpful.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's cool to see people view things that way, because I think from the outside you don't always get that. You feel like the Army guys are the Army guys, and the Marine guys and the Marine guys, and the Air Force sleep in Marriott's, and that's.
Listen, the Air Force is useful too, man. Leave them alone.
We poke fun at each other. This is going back to, like I said, we poke fun at each other, but if somebody else does, you get a punch in the mouth.
Yep.
But service is service. And that's the way I view it, and I hope everybody else views it that way.
Well, I think service
is service. Not
having been there, I would assume that when lives are on the line, it
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, and everybody's wearing that flag patch.
That's right.
Theoretically. So yeah, I could definitely see how it doesn't matter at that point. Everybody's there for each other.
Yeah, it's one team, one fight. One team, one fight.
Yeah, yeah. We have a friend of ours who served in the Air Force, and I was talking to him one day about how he sometimes he'd be on the flight line, with a rifle and guarding a plane. He's like, it was the most useless rifle ever, because if they got to me holding my rifle, they ran over the Army, they ran over the Marines, they ran over everybody in front of us. He says, so my rifle was done at that point. He would say,
hey,
it's a thing.
It's crazy.
So you were saying before we got off there, you were 7 months in country, 7 months home.
Yeah, I want to say that's about what our rotation was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's about 7. I think we were like 7.5.
Okay.
We weren't home. We were away longer than we were at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like an equal time.
So you deployed more than once then?
Yeah, I did three back to back. So I went so the first time I went over, we were out in like Blue Diamond area of Iraq, and then after that I was in Fallujah the last 2 times that I went over.
Wow.
So you were there for the second? Were you there for the second battle, or did you miss that?
No, I was there. Yeah, 05 to 08 is when I was there 3 tours, back to back.
Oh, Fallujah. There were 2 battles. That Fallujah was split, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay. That was. I mean, the stuff. I feel like of all like the podcasts and stuff we listen, and I've read a handful of people's books. Most of the books, obviously, I've apparently I've read have not been the military guys, but have been either embedded journalists or that type of thing, which were very interesting. But when you hear, some of these guys talk about Fallujah, it was like all of a sudden the rules of engagement were very different. When those guys went into Fallujah, it's like at that point if you didn't realize, if you hadn't been in heavy combat at that point, you didn't realize, what this was. This was the most open rules of engagement that the Marines had seen, and probably
I mean, there are definitely
in decades.
A lot of years of heavy fighting and trying to bring the people in that we thought we could trust, and it was just up the ups and downs, and it just felt like every time you went over a little bit like you were starting over, and then you get some some footing, and then eventually it's just like, okay, well, you kind of just separate yourself, so you can at least when you come home be present,
yeah,
and still be in tune and in touch with what's going on over there, because eventually you're going back over, right? So I mean, it was for me, it was a lot of waves, ups and downs, and tracking and keeping things and doing turnovers with our counterparts over there when we would go over there. But I kind of think that it started to lighten up a little bit as I started my end of my tours there, and and then of course we all know that it is what it is now. So
yeah,
a lot of money spent, a lot of blood lost, and there's, like I said, it's conversation for another time. But
yeah, which would be great to have. But do you think we'll be back there?
I hope for vacations.
Yeah,
not for any fighting.
Yeah,
you want a vacation there? Is that what you're saying?
Probably not so much, but it would be a lot better than going over there for what we went over there for, in the first place.
Yes, but realistically,
I mean,
come on now. You and I have talked politics.
I know, but,
do you see it just we're just out of the Middle East, or do you think like something happened? I mean, we're already with this Israel thing and Hamas and Iran being involved. Like we're already freaking 3 or 4 toes in this anyway.
I mean, I assumed that I was going to be put on the spot, but I try to evade what I can evade.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't see how we're not going to be back there at some
point.
Like
I said, until we're ready to, to share it and just be happy with what we got, we'll never be there. I mean, we're always going to be, fighting it out. People don't get along with each other. You got ideological differences, and money and power involved, greed. I mean, we're always going to be beating each other up.
You're being so PC right now.
I know.
Yeah, he is.
I'm trying to figure out why.
But I mean,
I think if anything, it's not hurting your barbecue business, bro.
I feel like this is more about my military.
We're gonna get there.
We're getting there. We're getting there, man. We got to go through all phases of Mark, man.
Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it almost.
I know you would.
Almost. Would you have gotten out though?
No.
Yeah.
Wait, the first time or the second time?
Anytime. I would have stayed in.
Oh, so you'd still be in now?
I would have stayed in, and if everything was.
Wait, now I'm really confused.
Yeah,
I would have stayed. There would have been no break.
Then why'd you get out the second time?
There was some
22 years. How many would you have done?
I'm saying like there would have been no break. I would have stayed in. I wouldn't have got out in 99. I got out.
Be like a general or something by now.
99. I got out 99, and that's when I came back in after 9/11.
Do you have thoughts on the Afghan withdrawal, pull out? No thought. You have no thoughts?
No. What I try to do, I mean, I
don't think like you're held to any kind of secrecy or anything.
No, there's not. I know there's no psychiatrist in here either. But I had when I retired, I had to do a reboot, man. I had to do a reboot, and only those that serve and been serving for a long time can kind of understand what I'm talking about. But when you get out, some stay around it. And everybody has their own way of dealing with, what they deal with, right? My way of dealing with it was, the reason I got out, because, health issues and stuff like that. I got, stuff going on, degenerative discs, TBI, stuff like that. But having a son, was coming into his, what they consider the good years of middle school, high school, coming into his, finding himself as a young teen. The doc told me one day, it was in the office. He's just like, listen, you can ride this out. And if you do, this will be the last thing you ever do. But if you have any aspirations of doing anything else, you need to turn your papers in and get out, because you're not going to last long. Yeah. So I said, okay, well, I want to see my son grow up. I want to not, move him around. This is my choice. I've had friends that stayed in and moved their families around, and, their kids, 1-2 years.
You moved a lot.
Yeah, we did. But, saw some of my friends, like their kids did not graduate high school with their friends. You know what I mean? Like in a high school for 1 year only to graduate. Yeah. Didn't know anybody.
Yeah, it's tough.
That is tough. We didn't deal with that as kids.
No, we didn't. And I'm not.
We grew up together and all the way up through. Like, we didn't have to deal with that. But that was.
But we knew those kids.
Yeah, but
there was definitely kids coming and going for sure.
Growing up here at Fort Dix, New Jersey, we had friends that like that. Like we would see them one minute and be like, "Where the hell did they go?" But for me, that's not something that I wanted my son to go through. Yeah. So I decided that with my injuries and my issues and my son growing up, I said, I'll go ahead and I'll retire.
So were you still active duty when you were in Colorado?
Yeah.
And then you were in Japan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was active duty too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you did that. You came back to Colorado, then you came back to the East Coast.
Colorado, Japan, then came back to
Colorado, Japan, then the East Coast. Okay. All right.
So
it's tough with a kid that age.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and in the Marine Corps, like some services, we move around every 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's just like you start looking at, okay, what grade's he in? How old is he? We move here. You can kind of calculate all that. And, I just wanted him to kind of grow up like we did, with a core group of friends, do sports. He was, heavy into football. Yeah. And football, it's a team sport, and he needed a team around him. Being the new guy, the new kid on a football team every couple of years is no way for a young teenage boy to really, if he aspires to be, collegiate athlete, maybe one day in the NFL, it's really no way for him to, to kind of go through it. Being a new kid every couple of years.
Unless you're real badass.
Even if you're not an athlete, I mean, to have it to be at that age and have to
just switching schools so much,
just switching
losing friends constantly, starting over with new friends constantly. It's tough.
It's tough. No, and you got out right at he was that age. I mean, you guys landed here in South Jersey.
I think he was like starting sixth grade.
Starting sixth grade, like getting right into middle school.
So if you didn't get out for that reason, you could have stayed in and kept on plugging along. Like
I could have went.
There was no issue with like promotions and like needing to keep moving up to stay in.
No, there was. I just got promoted to I was E8 for about 2 years when I made a decision. So it would have been too long before E9, but that would have been the pinnacle. Once I hit E9, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And
really,
I decided that, well, if I did stay in, all the Marine Corps really does, with the E9s is just kind of rotate them around the Marine Corps. You're at command levels. You're the senior enlisted advisor to, colonels and generals. And
there's nothing after E9. You can't.
Nothing either.
You can't.
Master gunnery sergeant is it.
You can't
well, for me,
move up to be like an officer. You can't be an officer.
The other side of the house would have been sergeant major.
Yeah.
So I went up. I went up my MOS side, which was master guns would have been E9, and so master guns and sergeant major, same rank. One's administrative.
Because at that point, like if you haven't gone to like an officer training school, you didn't have a college degree. I mean, it's kind of where
right.
You were.
So I mean, if I didn't go warrant officer or go officer, there was really no. That was it. Where I was at, more of an enlisted guy, being around my Marines, manager, supervisor, leading Marines. Not to say that officers don't. I'm not saying that at all, but they're more into the weeds, making decisions, doing. They more
political.
They drive the bus.
Yeah.
In this scenario,
very different.
I'm the guy that keeps all the kids in their seats.
Yeah. Gets them on and off the bus together.
You're a bus monitor.
The bus monitor.
That's a great. That's a great way of looking at it.
So they drive the bus, but no, I never really saw myself that way. And this goes back to the earlier discussion about how I came to be, right? So school wasn't really for me.
Yeah.
Officers, you got to be, you're top notch, man. You got to be studying. You got to be a scholar. You got to be reading things. You got to be smart. You got to be intellectual.
And I know just from texting you that reading's not great for you. It's not a big.
Phonics is.
It's not the strong suit.
Yeah, but
we'll just give you a gun.
You got to be articulate. But I can definitely shoot.
Such a knucklehead.
Yeah, at the time, and now I think with like I would have been like the last group of people that if I'd have joined after I graduated nursing school, I could have gone in as an officer with the 2-year degree.
Right.
And the military has since done away with that.
Right.
You now need a 4-year degree to go in and be able to go through basic and then go through OCS.
Yeah. I had some friends that, did college while they were enlisted and moved up and, and good on them, man, because it really takes a lot. It's a heavy toll on you, your family, if you have a family at the time, but putting in that study time after work every day and turning in papers in, and, I condone those guys and have much respect for a lot of those, even one of our buddies, Mike, Trank that we went to school with, he did that, put some time in, got some school done, went warrant officer, retired, and, better himself. And I'm all about those guys that are out there trying to better themselves. And me, I'm just a knuckle dragger, man. Just a knuckle dragger.
Listen, man, if I wasn't trying to play football, I would have been right there with you. If I could figure out how to lose a few pounds, but that would have been my route too, dude. I didn't have nothing else.
You'd have lost that in basic, man. They'd probably flown off.
Nothing else. To be honest with you,
you have.
To be honest with you, I thought about it.
Respect for authority.
I thought about it even after finishing up playing at Rowan. And honestly, if I had any regrets in life, it's probably that I didn't.
Yeah.
And hindsight being 2020, looking back, like had I done that, I never would have got with Carolyn, and I wouldn't be where I am now. But honestly, I really seriously considered it and thought about doing it even after being done college and football, like just joining then. Yeah. And I still would have beat 9/11. Like that was the time frame. We talked like 1999, 2000.
That's right.
Yeah.
That I seriously considered it. Just I don't know why I didn't, but
because your dad did served.
Yeah, 20 in the Army.
That's right.
And it's just because of that and the history there and really loving growing up on Army bases and stuff. That's probably the route I would have went. I probably would have joined the Army in a heartbeat and been there doing the same infantry grunt work, that you were doing on the Marine side. But
yeah,
I don't know why I didn't, other than just the lack of motivation, I guess, at that time, coming off of being done playing football and doing the whole college thing and kind of being done there and trying to figure out the next step. Like I wasn't super motivated. And then by the time, 9/11 happened, I was with Carolyn and we were married. And at that point I'm like,
now what?
It's
a big decision.
Leaving and ditching her to go do that just didn't seem right either. So it just never happened. But yeah, if I wasn't trying to play football coming out of high school, like I'd have been right there with you.
Yeah. It's tough. I had my father served, my grandfather served, and my grandfather was always giving a speech. Don't join, don't do it. Don't join, don't do it. I did it.
Well, that's what I got from my dad.
And my grandfather was, D-Day to the Rhine.
Yeah.
He was, 2 Purple Hearts. He had a hell of a war.
Right. But you got to think about some of those experiences that, those family members have had in those wars.
Mm-hmm.
I could understand why they told you no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not, but my father was opposite. My father, and my father had a very different military experience. My father was in pre-Vietnam, post World War II, pre-Vietnam. He was in Germany on a Hawk missile site.
Yep.
Had a great team.
How long was your dad in?
He was in 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Best times of his life. Had a great time. I had a great time in the military.
Military's dope when there's no wars going on.
Especially in Germany.
I'm in Germany doing Oktoberfest.
Especially in Germany,
dude.
I
spent some time in Germany. It's a good place.
And that's where he was. And it was like we were just, he was basically in the Alps in the mountains on actually have the mug there, the Hawk missiles that they had. Then he was on manning a Hawk missile site. They had a group of guys and 20 missile sites that were part of their deployment. And
that was my first my first duty station as a embassy guard. Was Berlin, Germany. I could see why people don't leave Germany.
Yeah. So
discussion.
So tail end of your career in the Marines, you were doing what? Where?
Yeah, so I was intel operations chief at 2 MEF. So basically up at the flagpole level, general level, down at Camp Lejeune, and in the G2. And I mean, I was, we were deploying, but we were really kind of just, doing stuff, like in Norway and, kind of just trying to foster our partnerships with some of our allied nations and things.
Norway.
Like that. Yeah, Norway was cool, dude.
I want to go.
Never been. And it was cold when we went, but I don't give a shit. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I was there with Marines, and I consider friends, and they were it was a good time. It was a real good time. I mean, it was a short, I think 4 months we were there, just doing some operations, exercises and things like that. But it was a good time. Good time. We had some time off, kind of got to get out in town a little bit, eat some of the food, and
eat some Graflocks.
Take in some of the
I don't know about the food though.
No, food, drinks.
I've been to Epcot, Norway.
Food, drinks.
Norway food in Epcot is
good.
Listen, don't hate on Disney, but Norway food in Epcot was not great.
I bet it was.
It was a lot of cold dead
the
fish
real Norway
and cheese.
Was cold.
Yeah, I mean, they were Vikings, bro.
People were great. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, they were, real hospitable. Food was good. We hung out in town for a couple nights. It was memorable.
That's cool.
It was good.
It's cool that you get those experiences with all the shit that you guys went through to, you get to have a little bit of the good in your career.
Yeah.
You can see Japan.
There are definitely. And everybody, I'm hoping that, and this is only in the
22 years, man. You better see something.
I'm hoping that everybody in their military career is able to, take the good with the bad. There's got to be at least.
I feel like they all got good stories.
Good stories.
Anybody I've talked to, there's shit stories, but there's also good stories. There's all the deployments that weren't that bad.
You kind of know what you're getting into. You should know what you're getting into.
There's deployments that aren't that bad. You get to be with, your brothers, bond, hang out, get into the same BS that we were kind of doing in high school.
Yeah, and that's kind of something
acting silly and doing stupid
that's
shit.
Kind of something we didn't hit on is the brotherhood, man, and that's something that cannot be described or duplicated
in any way.
In any way. I mean, people say like movies and things that you read or whatever, they talk about bleeding, and fighting with somebody or sharing hardships with somebody. I have some of the closest relationships, with friends that are Marines and service members that far surpass anybody like I grew up with.
Yeah.
Just because, not because we were in Iraq or not because we went to boot camp together, but
you shared so many experiences.
Yeah. That it's that commonality, and I have buddies that keep in touch with me, and the only place we ever were together were in boot camp. We didn't go to Iraq. We didn't fight together. We did nothing. We were just in boot camp together.
It's a pinnacle time in your life.
And they stay in touch with me.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Shared, what was the word you used? Shared hardships.
Yeah. Going through it.
And there's really nothing that compares to war.
Yeah.
But shared hardships in general is going to create bonds.
Yeah. Because if you think about a sibling, right? I mean, if you come from a broken family, you come from even, a good family, right? It's, those shared moments all those years, it's what, builds those bonds and keeps you tight.
Shared hardships. I like that because obviously nothing is going to compare to war and battle and being in the military, but shared hardships. Some of my greatest friendships are guys I played football with, and you go through the grind with them, and you go through the training camps and the seasons, and it's that camaraderie that's built through being in shitty situations, and clearly not comparing that to war and being in the military, but it's that shared hardships, like whatever it is that does forge bonds for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, even with people you might not otherwise have anything in common with. I mean, even in nursing, critical care situations where you're trying to save somebody's life and you're on, you're on a team where
you're in that shit,
you're doing that week in, week out on the shit. And it's just, you become close to those people that you do it with. And it's just, it's people that you probably wouldn't otherwise be close to.
Right.
And it's interesting.
So you have a lot of connections from guys.
Oh yeah.
That you served with, that you stay tight with.
They follow my, again, eventually get into Fats Barbecue. They follow me on Instagram. They follow me on LinkedIn, and other social media platforms.
Got that support.
But I mean, even my old boss, my old colonel, even though he's over in Germany or somewhere in Europe, he
still serving
no, he's out. Okay. He's retired too.
Okay.
But still serving, in a civilian capacity, but keeps in touch with me. Shoots me a little shot across the bow every now and again for Father's Day or Christmas.
Nice.
My XO owns a franchise himself. So him and I both, even before we both retired at the same time, my XO, he was like, I'm getting ready to get into the food service business too. He does taco. What is the name? It's escaping me right now. But he does one of those franchise taco businesses down in North Carolina. Okay. And he every now and again checks in on me and says what's going on. And a lot of my Marines check in and, chime in and send a little text and say, hey, proud, whatever, doing, send me a shirt, send me a hat, keeping an eye on you, doing things like that. So, but a lot of love, keeping in touch, and you wouldn't expect. I mean, we're done. We served, and
you're never
haven't seen him in forever.
Are you done though?
No.
Yeah, no,
you're always.
I would expect actually.
A lot of the service men and women will be like, I don't give a shit how old I am. If somebody ever calls me up, I'll put a gun in my hand. I'll be ready to go.
I feel like, and I feel especially that way with the Marines. I mean, it's, you guys are
always serving.
So, well, at least we got you here. If we're ever invaded, at least we got you here with us.
Next week on the This American Ride podcast.
Right after military life, there's supposed to be quite a bit of time for pause, just to kind of, decompress. And because, you got to understand that, like, we're 100 miles an hour, sending Marines off, welcoming Marines in. And they would always come to my house. I would host them. I would do barbecues and just kind of test things out on the Marines. And when I retired, they always told me, you need to do this full time when you get out. You know, anybody who knows barbecue, it's, you know, it's about commitment. It's about time management.